special permit for locating on that site, they said that a sign would have to go back to the zoning board of appeals.
So Bill, on the historic New England sign, is that coming to us because of lighting issues or
Yes.
some other lighting? Okay,
Lit sign. Also because it's in a residential area.
okay.
The only other one is a new zoning map, and the zoning map is something that I'm working with the town's GIS coordinator on. Hopefully we have that new zoning map ready for, we want to have it approved at the May town meeting, so we know we have to have it ready by the beginning of January.
Bill, one question. Eulin, the 25-year lease committee, can we get a meeting scheduled with the board just to give us an update?
I actually sent something out I don't know, I think Thursday or Friday. Yes, I want to have that meeting, but I want to have Gary Warner's scope of work, which is the forensic review of everything inside the rink.
Yep.
I want that scope in hand to meet with that group. If I don't have that, it doesn't really, we're meeting to meet, and that, I'm not sure is a good idea either, but.
Yep.
And he told me he'd have it for me a little bit before now, but he's still not overly late.
Okay.
He, at the same time, he runs one of the other 5 rinks that are in our group. He also is the guy that paints all the local rinks, not just the 5, but he paints the majority of rinks in the greater Boston area. So this is his crazy busy season.
Okay.
And he's like, yes, I know, I'll get it done. So
So hopefully by the
I
end of
will
October?
keep pushing him, but
End of October, is that reasonable?
it better be in the next week, for the scope, and then we can have it
Okay.
middle of the month, yes.
Good, okay. Any other questions for Bill?
I don't have any others.
I mean, it's good to hear all the development going on. Maybe this would be a good time to, we normally leave citizen speak to the end, but it kind of fits here where we had one person talking about Brush Hill Road and the large estates, and the fact that we're getting condominiums now, and I mean, to a degree, it's 21st century, and it's so expensive for anybody to buy one of these great estates and then maintain it after they buy it. That there's not a lot of demand for them anymore. So, part of what the planning board was doing with looking at the large estate condominium zoning kind of thing was trying to preserve some of those buildings.
I think some of that is directed by the master plan, which says, how do you preserve these buildings? Some of it is, provide different types of housing. And if those buildings can be divided into multiple units, it may be that you're getting more cars, but at the same time, you're preserving that building. You're not adding to necessarily, you're not adding beyond the footprint that already exists. You may have an addition to it, but it's a whole lot better than taking it down and putting up 5 houses.
Right.
We just did that on the Boyle Estate, which is now Beechwood Lane. You've got 5 big houses. Before, we had 1 large mansion and a carriage house. Now, all of a sudden, we have 6 houses on what was that one property, which adds to the character. Those 6 brand-new homes, or that 1 old one with the big estate. By having those condominiums going through the great estates, you have the potential to preserve what's up there.
Right. And then on bigger lots, you preserve that, and maybe you have other units behind
Right. It has to do with the design, and the design is going to play a big part in that. We have some very big lots. Do you take and put all the development by the street, or do you try to take the development and move it back into the lot so that you save the character of what that street looks like, what that lot looks like? And again, you'll increase the value of what you build in the back.
Right.
On that, and I know we typically wait till the end on the citizen speaker. We're on this Brush Hill. You know, Lisa Leo did come up here, and I think when she mentioned the Seasons Hospice, I think she wished that there was a little bit more time taken to ensure that that building fit the fabric of the community, which, you know, I tend to agree with, you know, and it seems as if it might not have met what the neighborhood's expectations were. And so, and I know we do take a good, strong look at that, but it's an example of one that we might have,
Which property are we talking about?
talking about the property that you mentioned on,
Walcott or?
Working?
yeah, the work.
Working property?
Yeah, the difference is, you know, on the one hand with Seasons, you have a for-profit
Right.
business that didn't have an unlimited budget, but certainly had more money to play with than, unfortunately, you have a not-for-profit that has federal funds trying to build a building and a very tight budget. And I think-
That was state and federal money that built the building. There's Fair Housing Act issues with that property. The amount of trees that they took down is maybe 3. That was lawn before. What's there now, I mean, the lighting issue, I'll give her that one. The lights may be too bright. I haven't driven by to figure out what the lights are. The
Maybe we can
driveway
work with them
part,
to tone that
Yeah,
down.
maybe we should.
the driveway part is like any other house in town that we would have, that they didn't get any special because of the driveway. Because their driveway happens to run to the back of the building, and they need to have a turnaround because of the the special handicap vans that work on that house, that's outside of what we would zone normally anyways. The lighting part is about the only one that I can actually say there may be an issue that, and we don't have anything to control that. We don't have zoning to control that. But if the light is obnoxious, then even they should know, and they may go about changing the light. I don't know what the light looks like. I will drive by to find it. But the other issues about the driveway, everything that they did there meets our current zoning. So there's nothing,
And also to make it clear too, because the other issue that was mentioned about that was the sewer line and taxpayer dollars, and that was not, there was a little
didn't
bit
come out
of,
of Milton's general fund.
right, there was a little bit of home money that went in.
That was federal, that was more federal money. The federal money actually is money that we had something to do with, so that we helped fund with our federal money that was already put on the table by HUD. There was money put on the table by DHCD. There's money put up there by DMR. What's the new name for that?
Oh, gosh.
It's public health. I mean, it's a public health agency. And it
Why
keeps
so why don't we
changing
look
name.
into the lighting issue?
Yeah, we'll look
See if
into
we
that. I
can
think
do it.
that's-
If the
that's a
light,
good
if
move,
the
yeah.
light is if the light is a big, square, obnoxious light, you know, they'll change it. You know, the people that live there, there's 5 people that live there that are all in their 20s, that are all bound to wheelchairs for the rest of their life in varying degrees of, you know, they cannot get out of that chair. They're not going to get out. The house, the building cost them $1.2 million to build. That didn't count the $500,000 that they paid for the land. So it's a pretty substantial building.
Good,
Thank you, Bill.
thanks. Appreciate it, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
All right.
Okay, let's see where we're at. Okay, item 9 is goals and objectives for the Airplane Noise Advisory Committee. As opposed to goals, I mean, this is more defining a scope for that committee, I guess, and we've got a bunch of suggestions in front of us. I don't know how you want to go through them, or
I'm happy to go down it. I think that we should
Okay.
articulate, you
Sure.
know, since it's, we spent some time on this, and we know that it's something that's, you know, much needed that we discuss. So the first thing is we felt that we'd prepare and publish a brochure to be distributed to residents, engaging the community at large by, one, defining the town's airplane traffic and noise problem, also providing confirmed data that supports the definition of Milton's airplane issue, again, suggesting possible resolutions and providing contact information for residents, subject-dependent, town, state, and federal contacts, and also provide a list of frequently asked questions. So I think that was one of the first things that we wanted to discuss. And secondly, I think form a coalition of neighboring communities with shared circumstances and who are similarly impacted by airplane traffic and noise to work toward resolving the common problem. We want to improve the composition of the Town of Milton's webpage to, one, communicate with Milton residents about current activity and action within the town that is addressing the problem as defined, provide links to Logan, CAC, Massport, Volpe, and other related agencies, provide a list of all Logan CAC documentation as it becomes available as a link to the town's website, provide documentation that demonstrates a history of communication by the town to help resolve this ongoing problem. I think in the future we'd like to meet with the Board of Selectmen monthly meetings to provide updates on the progress of the committee's activities, and that would be the ANAC committee and also the CACs. Invite state and federal elected delegation to Milton to speak with the Board of Selectmen. Prepare a packet of materials for Congressman Lynch to present to the Quiet Skies Caucus in the U.S. Congress to help them understand the scope of the problems in Milton. In this packet, it will include video clips and comments made by members of the public at Citizen Speak, should they allow it. Also work to establish contacts within the federal elected officials' offices with whom the committee members can either work with and contact. Continually, either weekly or monthly, have a letter writing campaign to the town's elected delegation by residents, say a coalition of concerned residents to elected officials or both. Consider having a technical advisor or experienced legal counsel available on retainer to advise as to next steps, meeting with the Board of Selectmen on a monthly basis as necessary, and finally prepare a presentation for May's town meeting about the subject of airplane noise. It should be noted that the goal should be focused and concerted effort to define the problem and work toward what is attainable. Keep that scope of work focused with the support of the Board of Selectmen.
I think it's well written.
Yeah, so Barbara Martin in our office, but do you want to address that part, Anne Marie, or I've got to...
I was going to just thank Barbara Martin in our office that helped me work on these rules first reading
Yep.
for you for the draft.
I mean, I think it does kind of do what we want in terms of narrow the focus of that committee a bit and shape the focus as opposed to just the nebulous charge that we gave them in the past. So I do like it in that respect. It does change the committee a little bit from a strictly advisory committee to a committee that actually has a
charge
and an end product in many cases. But that's not necessarily bad, I don't think.
I don't think so either. I think there's a lot of people who are on that committee currently, and people who are involved, whether it's in the grassroots or residents that are passionate and have information, have a lot of intelligence to add to this. And I think that adding it all together in the short period that we have to accomplish something, having some action items like this is going to help us get to where we want to be.
Yep. You know, the other thing we might want to think about too is similar to what Emily has done in the past with one of those, I don't know if they're constant contact surveys or wherever she gets those surveys from, that, you know, you...
Survey Monkey?
Survey Monkey, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was, yeah. To put one of those together, see if people will, you know, specifically about airplane noise and its impact on particular neighbors, see if you can get an idea of not necessarily the person's name, but their location at least, you know, either the street or the general area, and kind of compile all that, and you know, that may be something worthy of submitting to FAA, or, you know, here's the impact, you know. Assuming you get a broad range of you know, it's not just 30 crazy people, it's the town.
No, it's definitely the whole town. All right, so I get a few thoughts on this. But I know Barbara put it together based on some other communities, airplane committees. I think, I don't know if it narrows the role of the committee. I think it's more to make the committee more productive and more proactive. There's a couple at the end that I'm not sure that, they may or may not make sense. You know, a letter writing campaign to the elected officials. I think the elected officials know what the problem is and get it. So I'm not sure number 7, if the committee wants to do that, that's fine. I don't know if that has to be it may not be necessary. Number 8, having a technical advisor or experienced legal counsel, I think that's something that we want to keep at the board level, but keep the committee involved with, because we've already got town council working on this. And number 9, at the presentation for the May town meeting, that may be a good idea, but that's kind of far away, and I think a lot of the committee's work, the most important work is going to be in the nearer term. I think the big thing that the committee needs to do, which is not on this list, but came up around the same time the list was being prepared, is when Cindy Christensen was in last week, and she gave us her 3 recommendations for the Bland's 3. I think this committee would be the right one to help us really get that off the ground, but it needs to follow, Tom, you're the meeting you're going to have with, as you said at the beginning, you talk with Cindy Christensen and the president of the CAC and try to resolve the issues there where there may be a disagreement as to what the right approach is. But assuming that we do go with what Cindy's recommendations were, I think this committee could start some of the drafts and putting together some of the 3 recommendations so that we can work with them to really move in that direction. So I'd like to put those recommendations on the list and have that be part of the committee's charge.
I'm fine. My only concern is I don't want the committee to get into the statistical analysis, the refuting one set of statistics over. I mean, you start doing that, and you just get into a nightmare of a battle, because there's no way to. There's no good way to refute statistical information. You know, they'll just come back with an argument with more statistical information, and it just goes around and around in circles.
Yeah, I
don't think that's a good idea.
I don't think that's what really her recommendations are about. They really won't, because she's done some of the statistical, she's looked at some of that analysis with the CAC. I think the recommendations more were, you know, for the town to contact Massport, the FAA, and the CAC president, and arrange a meeting where they come in and explain the Phase 3 to either to this board or the public.
I think that's
each elected board reaching out to its counterpart in a community that's affected. I think those are the things, getting the drafts ready, getting the contacts made. I think that's what she's really looking for.
I agree with those, yeah.
Those could be something that this committee really could be very helpful with. Obviously, the Board of Health needs to take a look at this draft because they're a co-appointee of the committee. And we might even want to send this to the committee members themselves to take a look in the next few days, weigh in, give us any comments back.
Absolutely.
They might have other ideas that we haven't thought of for this, but the idea would be to really make this a more productive committee than, I think they've spent a lot of time discussing things, but we haven't actually, but there needs to be more, we're at a stage where more action is needed.
Yeah.
We need to be proactive.
I agree. Okay, so we'll distribute this list to Board of Health and to the committee. You might want to, I do agree with Katie, maybe a couple of those things we do want to take off of there that I don't, and we might want to add that Cindy's recommendations and the what do you call it, the survey thing.
Survey Monkey.
Survey Monkey, yeah. Okay, anything else? If not, item 10 on the agenda is the approval of a one-day liquor license for St. Agatha's Church.
I'll move that we approve a one-day liquor license for the St. Agatha's Church for an art party to be held at 440 Adams Street on Friday, October 23rd, 2015, from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, item 11 is the Town Administrator's Report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just want to remind the Board the selectmen and the residents of the town that on Friday, October 16th, Town Hall will be closed for business. The employees will be here. We are having a training session that will last from 8 to 1:30 in the afternoon. So we've put it in the Milton Times. I think it's going to be in this Thursday's Milton Times. I put it on the website, Facebook, cable. It will be in the Milton Times again next Thursday. So we're putting notices on all the doors. So again, the employees will be here, but we will be closed to the public because we're going to be having an all-day training session. And Jack Richmond from the police department will be leading that training session
Great.
for us.
Great.
The other item I wanted to remind the board about is that Registrar William O'Donnell will be holding office hours on Thursday, October 15th at Town Hall in the Blue Conference Room from 10 a.m. to 12 noon.
Chair's report. Chair's been traveling a bit, so if you want to hear anything about Caribou, Maine, I can tell you that. You're in Maine, Nantucket. So I've been traveling on business for about the past 2 weeks. The one thing I unfortunately was not able to make the Celebrate Milton event, so if somebody wants to bring us up to date on, I'm sure that's always a great event.
It was very nice. yeah.
Special event, and just want to thank all the people that made it so special and gave their time, and you know, it was a real kind of like they call it, a celebration of Milton. It had every
It's a celebration of diversity.
Yeah,
It's a celebration.
everything.
It's
And,
what Milton is about.
It is. It is.
The rain held off. It was a little windy, but
Yes.
it was a better day Sunday than Saturday, so we lucked out in that sense.
Yeah, I was moving furniture. I had all my floors redone. One of those stupid decisions. I'm going to get all the floors in the house redone, so I moved all the furniture into the garage, came back Sunday morning, and had to move it all back. So that's what I did all day Sunday. Also, there was a race.
We were looking for you at the half marathon. I was at mile 8 looking for you, Tom. Yeah, I wanted to say just a word about that, just a thank you to a lot of people who did a great fundraiser for the Council on Aging. I don't know how much money they raised. I think they're probably still working through all of that with their expenses, but it is a big fundraiser, and for a good
Reasonable
cause,
fund,
the
couple hundred
Transportation
people.
Fund for the Friends of the COA, and there were a lot of volunteers who took part, including a member of the school committee, and Becky Padera, and a group of high schoolers, and I think Collie Cott had a delegation of students out there. The high school band played. There was a bagpiper up on Adams Hill. The police department and the MEMA truck followed the very end of the race for, I don't know, a couple of hours. So it was really a great community event, and it was started right here at Town Hall with the big race wire canopy, and luckily it turned out to be a good day. Saturday would have been a much more difficult day to have that race. Sunday, the weather cooperated. It was cool, but great weather apparently for runners. So,
It was,
so
yeah.
they were
Right.
very happy with
Yeah.
the weather.
Not too
And,
much wind.
about 200 people ran. So it was exciting. A lot of volunteers along the route, passing out water, cheering, cowbells. So
Great.
Yeah,
it was bigger than last year's event. So I
which
think
is good.
keep it going and
Building
I
off
think
that.
this year was competing, but wasn't the Boston one that goes through Franklin Park the week before?
I don't know.
The BAA.
Yeah, I
Is
think-
that their
And that's
annual
a
half
big
marathon,
race,
I think, yeah.
Yeah, so you probably get some people running that and didn't want to do back-to-back halves.
There were a lot of good stories out of it. Some people who ran it for the first time who did just an amazing job, as well as some top runners from Milton who compete against each other, I think, and
Almost
our
every
friends
race.
also.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, they
But
do.
always come in at 1 or 2, so it was a nice event.
Well, while we're on the topic of sports, I want to congratulate the Milton High School football team for beating Natick, and I know that my neighbor Eddie Baker put in his column last week asking people when was the last time that ever happened where they beat Natick and Walpole in the same year, and I'm not sure that it ever did happen, so congratulate two of them. They're 4-0. They'll be ranked in the top 10 this week. It's really provided a lot of entertainment and excitement for Milton High School and their student body, and also the town.
I think probably the only time it might have happened was 1964 or 65 when Milton was Bay State League champs, and I think they were undefeated that season.
There you go.
So
We'll
that's
have to-
probably the last time.
We'll let Eddie know, and we'll have him look into it.
Okay, citizen speak responses, anything else to add to that? None?
I think it was all about airplane noise other than
Yeah,
Lisa's comments.
yeah, and I think we addressed those.
Yeah.
Future agenda items.
Not at the
This
moment.
time.
I know we do have, and it will be on the agenda shortly, the 5-year financial forecast is almost done. I took a little quick sneak peek at it today, so it looks good. We'll have a lot of, you may not like the message, but a lot of hard work went into it, and
We hope to have that on your October 20th meeting, and we will invite all of the chairs of boards and committees, the law committee chair, school committee chair. You'll probably have to have your meeting that night over at Council on Aging in order to accommodate everybody. I'm sure there'll be some lively conversation as a result of that presentation.
okay. Executive sessions. I'd like to propose a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of approving executive session minutes to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with union personnel and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with non-union personnel, believing that having such discussion in open session would have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the body, and to return to open session for the purpose of adjournment.
So moved.
Okay, Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Hurley, yes. We are in executive session.